Every once in a while in this space something happens that reminds you just how early we really are in crypto. And I'm not just saying that as one of those "we're still early" memes. I mean it in the sense that the entire financial architecture of the world is literally being rewritten right in front of our eyes. Banks, regulators, developers, even governments, they're all quietly building, testing, experimenting, and rolling out tech that most people won't even hear about until it's already part of their daily lives. And right now, one of the clearest examples of that is what's happening with VersaBank. Now, let me back up a little, because if you've been rocking with me for a while, you'll remember when I first mentioned VersaBank years ago. They weren't just another Canadian bank trying to dip their toes into blockchain. No, they were pushing boundaries in ways that a lot of bigger institutions were too scared to touch. Back in 2021, they partnered up with Stablecorp and launched VCAD, a Canadian dollar-backed stablecoin. And the part that blew me away at the time was they didn't just issue some centralized IOU on a private chain. They built it on Stellar. That was a bold move. Fast forward to now, and VersaBank is leveling up again. They're running a pilot for a new kind of tokenized deposit, USDV. And here's where it gets really interesting. This isn't just another stablecoin story. Stablecoins, as powerful as they are, come with baggage. People are always questioning if they're fully backed, if the reserves are legit, who's holding them, what jurisdiction they're in. With tokenized deposits, the game changes. These represent real US dollars held at VersaBank USA. Not a promise, not a shadow reserve. Actual federally insured money that can earn yield. Think about that for a second. A stablecoin that's basically a bank deposit but tokenized. That means you've got the stability of dollars, the safety of being insured, and the flexibility of blockchain rails all wrapped up in one product. And that's why I keep saying, this is the evolution of stablecoins. This is the next stage. Versa is already running tests across Stellar, Ethereum, and Algorand. That choice alone tells you a lot. Ethereum, of course, is the smart contract giant. It's the network that pretty much every developer touches at some point. Algorand has been underrated for a while, but if you've followed state channels and scalability discussions, it's got some serious muscle under the hood. And then there's Stellar, built from day one for speed, low cost, and real-world finance. If you want to tokenize bank deposits and actually make them work across borders, Stellar is the obvious choice. Here's the part one love. Versa isn't doing this in some hidden sandbox. They're talking openly about their digital vault technology, about how these deposits will be managed, about how they want this to be fully recognized under existing banking rules. That's big, because it means this isn't some shadow finance project regulators are going to fight tooth and nail. This is happening inside the system with approval in mind. That's how you know this isn't just an experiment. It's a play for the future of banking itself. Now let's imagine how this plays out. Right now, if you go to your local bank or credit union, you can buy a certificate of deposit. You lock up your money, you earn some yield, and if you want to redeem it, you either call in or physically walk into a branch. It's clunky, it's slow, and it feels like 1999. But with tokenized deposits, that entire back-end process gets automated through smart contracts. No waiting on a human clerk. No paperwork. No office hours. Just instant, verifiable, programmable access to your funds. That's a seismic shift. And you know who's already paying attention? The biggest players in the game. Citi was experimenting with tokenized deposits earlier. JP Morgan is running their own blockchain initiatives like Kexis. Circle and FIS are exploring how tokenized deposits tie in with USDC. Even the Universal Digital Payments Network, the UDPN, is in the mix, partnering with blockchains like Aptos. And trust me, if these giants are circling, it's because they see the writing on the wall. Tokenized deposits are not a fad. They're the logical next step in the digitization of money. But here's where Stellar shines. Most of these experiments still rely heavily on Ethereum or closed permission networks. That's fine for testing, but if you actually want adoption, remittances, cross-border payments, retail users, then you need something lightweight, fast, and affordable. Stellar checks those boxes. And we're not just talking theory here. We've already seen Stellar embedded into corporate finance back in 2021 with Versa's VCAD. The fact that Stellar is still in the mix now with USDV tells you that Versa didn't just dip in and walk away. They've seen what this network can do. And I'll tell you what excites me even more. The timeline. Versa wants to finish testing this year and go commercial by 2026, pending approval. That's not some far-off science project. That's 2 years away. 2 years until we could see tokenized bank deposits, federally insured, yield-bearing, live on public networks like Stellar and Ethereum. Imagine the adoption curve when people realize they can hold a token that's safer than a stablecoin, pays yield, and runs 24/7. Now, I want you to picture this. You're someone in Argentina or Venezuela, where your local currency is in free fall. Inflation is eating you alive. Stablecoins already look like a lifeline to you. But now, imagine being able to hold tokenized US bank deposits directly on your phone. You don't need to trust Tether or some offshore reserve. You're holding dollars, insured, earning yield, and fully liquid on Stellar's network. That's not just convenience, that's survival. That's life-changing. And it doesn't stop there. Think about remittances. Millions of people send money back home every day. Right now, they get hammered by fees, delays, and middlemen. With tokenized deposits on Stellar, that money moves instantly, cheaply, and securely. You're cutting out all the friction. And when you layer in Telegram, yes, Telegram, suddenly you've got 100 million users who can send XLM and other assets instantly inside the app. That's adoption at a scale most cryptos only dream about. This is why I keep saying we're entering a powerful time. People look at crypto and dismiss it as scams and meme coins. And sure, there's plenty of that. But the underlying blockchain software, that's not a scam. That's infrastructure. That's the code that's going to underpin the financial future whether people realize it or not. And the more you connect the dots, Versa Bank, Telegram, tokenized deposits, Stellar smart contract rollout, the clearer the picture becomes. So when I see Versa resurfacing after years of grinding behind the scenes, I get hyped. Because this isn't some hype play. This is a bank with a track record, with regulatory ambitions, with a clear roadmap, coming back into the spotlight at the exact right moment. And if they pull this off, and I believe they will, you're going to see Stellar, Ethereum, and Algorand get a spotlight like never before. And listen, I know there's skepticism. People will say, well, it's just another bank project. But that's the point. It's not crypto versus banks anymore. It's crypto with banks. It's crypto inside banks. It's crypto powering banks. That's the quiet revolution happening under your nose. And the ones who recognize it now, they're the ones who are going to be positioned when the floodgates open. Let's dig deeper, because the more you peel back the layers on this whole Versa Bank move, the more you start to realize how big the ripple effects could be. People underestimate how slow and cautious banks usually are. They don't just roll out innovation for the fun of it. Everything takes years of study, committees, pilot programs, regulatory approval, you name it. So when a bank decides to push forward with something like tokenized deposits, you better believe it's not just an experiment. It's a signal that the infrastructure is finally mature enough for the traditional system to begin using it at scale. Think about it this way. We've already seen the world's biggest asset managers warming up to crypto. BlackRock, Fidelity, Vanguard, these aren't your typical risk everything on a meme coin players. They're cautious, they're calculated, and they only move when they know the water's safe. Same goes for banks. If Versa is pushing this through, that tells me the risk-reward equation has shifted. It's no longer risky to touch blockchain. It's risky not to. Now here's where things get really wild. Versa isn't trying to reinvent the wheel. They're not building some proprietary closed-loop system that only they can control. They're putting tokenized deposits on Stellar, Ethereum, and Algorand. Public networks. Open infrastructure. That's huge because once these deposits exist on a public chain, you can plug them into everything else: DEXs, DeFi platforms, payment rails, remittance apps, even wallets like Telegram. Suddenly, that deposit isn't just a line in a bank's database. It's a live digital asset that can move anywhere in the world in seconds. And don't underestimate the psychological shift that creates. Right now, people still think of their bank account and their crypto wallet as two separate universes. You've got your dollars in the bank, your tokens on chain, and they rarely meet except through some clunky exchange process. But tokenized deposits erase that boundary. Your bank balance literally becomes your on-chain balance. You can use it in DeFi, you can send it cross-border, you can hold it in cold storage. The lines blur completely. And once people get a taste of that flexibility, they're never going back. Now, let's circle back to Stellar's role here. This is where I get bullish to the point of goosebumps. Because out of all the networks Versa could have chosen, Stellar is front and center. And that matters. Why? Because Stellar was designed for exactly this use case. Not NFTs, not gaming tokens, not endless speculative hype. Stellar was built for payments, remittances, tokenized assets, and financial inclusion. This is its lane. And now we're seeing banks confirm that. They could have gone private. They could have gone with JP Morgan's permission blockchain. But no, they went with Stellar. That's validation on another level. You also have to remember Stellar just spent over a year building out Soroban, its smart contract platform. This wasn't rushed. It was carefully designed to integrate with Stellar's existing architecture. Fast, lightweight, affordable. Now we're about to see Soroban flex its muscles in the real world. Imagine Versa's tokenized deposits running on Stellar smart contracts, with automated yield payouts, instant redemptions, and programmable logic baked in. That's not sci-fi. That's literally what's being piloted right now. And here's another angle that most people are missing. The international play. Versa isn't just some local Canadian outfit anymore. They've expanded into the United States, and they're looking at markets far beyond North America. Why is that significant? Because the biggest demand for dollar-backed digital assets isn't in the US or Canada. It's in emerging markets. It's in countries where inflation is out of control, currencies are collapsing, and access to stable, safe dollars is almost impossible. That's where the real adoption curve lies. We've already seen this with USDT and USDC. Go to Argentina, Nigeria, Turkey, you'll find people using stablecoins as everyday money, even if they couldn't care less about Bitcoin or Ethereum. Why? Because those tokens give them a lifeline. Now imagine upgrading that lifeline from "trust us, we've got the reserves somewhere," to "here's a federally insured bank deposit in tokenized form." That's game-changing. That's a safety net people can actually rely on. And Stellar is positioned to deliver it. Let's not forget Telegram in all this. The integration of XLM into Telegram's wallet is one of those moves that flies under the radar for most people. But when you zoom out, it's monumental. We're talking about an app with over 100 million users, 35 million of them active every month. And now, within that app, you can send and receive XLM instantly. No extra setup, no confusing interfaces, just peer-to-peer money movement baked into the chat app people already use daily. Why does that matter? Because adoption isn't just about technology, it's about convenience. It's about meeting people where they already are. And Telegram is already massive in regions where remittances are a lifeline: Asia, Russia, Latin America. So if you connect the dots, you've got Versa creating tokenized deposits on Stellar, you've got Telegram offering a wallet that supports Stellar assets, and you've got billions of dollars of remittances flowing through those exact regions. That's not coincidence. That's synergy. Now let me paint a picture for you. Imagine it's 2026. Versa's tokenized deposits have gone live, and they've been approved by regulators. A worker in the US wants to send money back to family in the Philippines. Instead of going through Western Union and paying ridiculous fees, they open Telegram, buy tokenized deposits through Stellar, and send them instantly to their family's phone. No middlemen, no delays. The family receives federally insured digital dollars, can hold them, earn yield, or cash out into local currency whenever they want. That's the future we're building toward. And this isn't just about remittances or inflation hedging. Think about corporate finance. Think about trade settlements. Companies spend billions every year just on the inefficiency of moving money across borders. Letters of credit, wire transfers, intermediaries, it's a mess. Tokenized deposits cut through all of that. A company in Europe can settle instantly with a supplier in Asia using Versa's deposits on Stellar. That's cheaper, faster, safer, and more transparent. And once big corporations get a taste of those savings, they're not going back to the old system. Let's also talk about yield, because this is another area where tokenized deposits crush traditional stablecoins. Right now, if you hold USDT or USDC, you're basically holding digital cash. The stable, sure, but it doesn't earn you anything unless you stake it or lend it out through a third party. With tokenized deposits, the yield is baked in. It's a natural extension of the banking model. You're not trusting some DeFi protocol with questionable risk. You're earning yield on actual insured deposits. That changes the entire risk profile for investors, savers, and institutions. Now, think about what happens when DeFi protocols integrate with these tokenized deposits. Suddenly, you've got an explosion of opportunities. Lending, borrowing, liquidity pools, all powered by insured, yield-bearing digital dollars. That's like DeFi 2.0, but with institutional credibility. The skeptics who dismissed DeFi as a casino, they're going to have to pay attention when banks step into the arena with tokenized deposits. And don't sleep on the regulatory angle either. We're watching laws and bills slowly crawl through governments, trying to define what stablecoins can and cannot be. The Stablecoin Act, the Clarity Act, none of them fully resolve the issue of yield-bearing stablecoins. Tokenized deposits sidestep the debate entirely. They're not trying to be outside money. They're literally bank deposits in digital form. Regulators can live with that because it fits into existing frameworks. That's why I'm confident Versa will get approval. The path is clear. So, when you connect all these dots, Versa's expansion, Stellar's infrastructure, Soroban's launch, Telegram's integration, you start to see a web forming. And at the center of that web is the quiet revolution of tokenized deposits. Not the flashy meme coins, not the speculative bubbles, but the foundational shift in how money is stored, moved, and used. And if you're paying attention right now, you're watching history unfold in real time. The irony is, most people won't realize it until it's already here. They'll wake up in 2026, open their favorite app, and suddenly find they can send tokenized bank deposits as easily as sending a text message. They won't even know or care what Stellar is. But you will. You'll know that Stellar has been under the hood this entire time, quietly powering the next generation of money. And that's why I stay bullish. Here's what most people don't realize. Every financial revolution in history looked small at the beginning. Credit cards? Nobody trusted them at first. Online banking? People laughed and said no one would ever type their password into a website. Mobile payments? Everyone thought it was a fad until Apple Pay and WeChat Pay completely changed how billions transact. And now we're standing right at the edge of the next leap, tokenized deposits, and once again, most of the world is asleep at the wheel. But here's the difference this time. The pace of adoption is going to be 10 times faster. Why? Because the rails already exist. We're not inventing the internet from scratch. We're not convincing people to buy a smartphone for the first time. Billions of people already have mobile apps, already have bank accounts, already use stablecoins in one form or another. All that's happening now is an upgrade. Instead of unstable stablecoins backed by promises, you get tokenized deposits backed by banks. Instead of clunky exchanges, you get seamless integrations in apps people already use. Instead of sending money in days, you send it in seconds. And once people experience that jump, there's no going back. You can't show someone instant, borderless, insured money and then expect them to be satisfied with waiting 5 business days for a wire transfer. The psychology flips. It's like switching from dial-up internet to fiber optic. Once you've seen the future, you can't unsee it. Now, let's zoom in on Stellar again because this is where I think the alpha lies. Look at the narrative around crypto right now. Bitcoin ETF approvals, Ethereum staking, Solana hyped as the fast chain. That's all great. But Stellar is quietly sitting in the background, building partnerships, integrating with banks, working with regulators, and aligning itself with the exact lane tokenized deposits need. Payments, remittances, financial inclusion. It doesn't need to fight for narrative, it's already in position. And here's the beauty. Stellar isn't just a blockchain. It's an ecosystem. It's got Soroban for smart contracts. It's got institutional partners. It's got liquidity bridges. And most importantly, it's got credibility. This isn't some chain that came out of nowhere last year. Stellar has been grinding for almost a decade, and now the timing lines up perfectly. Versa and Stellar together is like a match made in heaven. Think of it like this. Every other chain is still fighting for use cases. Stellar already has its use case, its money. That's why Versa chose it. That's why other banks will follow. And once they do, it's going to be a domino effect. One bank proves it works. Regulators nod their heads. Consumers adopt it without even realizing, And suddenly, we're living in a world where your bank account isn't just a website login. It's a token in your wallet. Let's talk about the big picture here. The financial system we know today was built for a world that doesn't exist anymore. It was built in the 20th century for paper checks, for slow communication, for local markets. But today, we live in a 24/7, global, digital-first world. The money system is lagging decades behind. Tokenized deposits fix that gap. They bring the old guard into the new age without tearing it all down. That's why banks like Versa are pushing forward. It's evolution, not revolution. And that's exactly why it will work. Now, some of you might be wondering, okay, but what about competition? What if Ethereum or Solana take the whole market? Fair question. But here's my take. There's room for multiple players. Ethereum is a powerhouse, no doubt. Solana is fast and has momentum. But Stellar? Stellar owns the payments lane. And when it comes to money movement, you don't need flashy marketing or memes. You need reliability, speed, low cost, and trust. That's Stellar's DNA. And when banks are deciding where to launch tokenized deposits, they're not looking for the chain with the best memes. They're looking for the chain that won't break when trillions of dollars are moving through it. That's Stellar. And let's not sleep on the global demand here. Think about regions like Africa, Southeast Asia, Latin America. These are places where access to stable money is not just convenient, it's survival. You've got inflation eroding savings daily. You've got people lining up at banks for hours just to get access to basic funds. You've got families paying outrageous fees just to send money home. For them, tokenized deposits aren't a cool innovation, they're a lifeline. And Stellar is already positioned in these markets through partnerships, through remittance corridors, through integrations like MoneyGram. Versa plugging into that web only accelerates the impact. Now let's fast forward a bit. Picture the year 2027. By then, tokenized deposits will be live across multiple banks. Maybe not every bank yet, but enough to matter. Corporations will be settling trades with them. Workers will be sending remittances with them. DeFi will be integrating them. And retail users won't even realize they're using blockchain. They'll just know money moves faster, cheaper, and more securely than ever before. And behind the scenes, Stellar will be the backbone of that system. The narrative shift will be massive. Today, Stellar isn't front-page news. But when the mainstream headlines start talking about banks issuing deposits on Stellar, about billions in remittances flowing through Telegram wallets, about corporate treasuries moving funds in seconds instead of days, that's when the retail crowd wakes up. That's when the FOMO hits. And by then, the smart money will already be positioned. Let me put it bluntly. The next cycle isn't just about ETFs or speculative hype. It's about real-world adoption. It's about the merging of TradFi and blockchain. And Stellar is right in the middle of that merge. This isn't a moonshot lottery ticket. This is a foundational layer of the new financial system. And if you're paying attention, you can see the pieces locking into place right now. Now, let's address the skeptics. Because I know there are people saying, banks will never adopt crypto. Regulators will never approve it. People will never switch. I've heard it all before. Those same arguments were used against credit cards, against the internet, against mobile payments. And every single time, the skeptics were proven wrong. Not because they were dumb, but because they underestimated human psychology. People always choose convenience. People always choose speed. People always choose better money. And once tokenized deposits hit the mainstream, all those excuses will vanish. So the real question isn't if, it's when. And based on everything we're seeing versus pilot programs, Stellar's infrastructure, Soroban's launch, Telegram's adoption, the answer is sooner than most expect. Now let me leave you with this thought. Every investor dreams of catching the big wave before it crests. Most people wait until it's obvious. They buy at the top when the headlines are screaming and everyone's talking about it. The smart ones? They position early while it's still quiet, while it still feels boring. That's where we are right now with Stellar and tokenized deposits. Quiet, under the radar. But the setup is there and the wave is building. The choice is simple. You can watch from the sidelines, or you can position yourself for what's coming. Because when this thing flips on and the mainstream realizes what's happening, It won't just be another crypto narrative. It will be the beginning of a new financial era. Don't wait for the headlines to wake you up. Stay ahead of the curve. Do your research, dig into Stellar, understand the implications of tokenized deposits, and position yourself now before the rest of the world catches on. The future of money is being built in real time, and you have the chance to be early. Stay sharp, stay bullish, and don't sleep on what's coming.